What's up, Hoof listeners? Welcome to the offseason. We are here, Anthony. We are now in the offseason after the Bills lose their third divisional round playoff game to the Chiefs. Had to end that way, right? Had to end wide right. Stuff you hate to see. Bringing up old memories. I feel like the script writers are just running out of ideas for the Bills. For like, you know what? Let's run back the wide right. Just run it back.
You know, they've had a lot of trauma. Let's reinstitute that with some more trauma and, you know, some PTSD along with it, you know. As if wide right wasn't already a bad freaking omen in Buffalo. Now you got it twice. It's just, yeah, unbelievable. Not so, and for it to be against the Chiefs, for it to be this close. Again, I've said it on the show before. Last year was a little bit easier because at least we got our ass kicked. You know, you're like, God, can't we ever just lose a game? Why does it always have to be last second in our control or whatever? And we blow it, right? It's just so, it makes it so much more painful every single time. And yeah, we're Bills fans. We've taken a lot of damage. We're used to it. We bounce back. We're dedicated. I'm still getting my Bills tattoo in a couple of months. You know, that's not changing.
But it's tattoo?
I absolutely am. Yeah. I'm getting a Bills tattoo. It was my Christmas present from my brother, actually, was a tattoo because it was a perfect gift because it's one of those things where I'll never buy it for myself because I'm always like, oh, I should pay for this or I should put it toward my student loans or whatever. He bought me a tattoo, and that's what I'm getting on my calf. I'm getting a Bills tattoo. So
a logo?
Yeah, it's going to be the logo and maybe some Zuba's print and a little bit of, you know, artist design in there as well. So we'll see. I'll show it off, I'm sure, once I get it. But anyway,
after this game, you're the only person I know that's getting a Bills tattoo.
Exactly. You know, I was hoping I'd put a Lombardi trophy next to it, but God only knows when that's going to happen. So, yeah, but it's, you know, that's how we are as Bills fans. We bounce back from it. We're still dedicated to our team. We still love our team just as much, but it doesn't make the hurt any easier, man. I was so unbelievably depressed after that game. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't talk to anybody. I was just sitting there trying to distract myself, and I just couldn't accept it because it's like, God, why again? Why this way? Why to the Chiefs of all teams? God, you know, like so many things you wish you could do differently and take away from this. But
I think this one's a little different. Like 13 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. The Bills did everything they could to win.
Right.
Right. Just got beat by
overtime
a really
rules.
Good team
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What's the other Chiefs loss? Championship game.
Yep.
Just got blown out. Right. It was never really competitive. And now it's this one's different because the Bills had
at home.
You're in control. You're feeling good with 1:50 left in field goal range, thinking you're gonna run the clock down, go down and have 4 shots at the end zone, and that's how the game's gonna end this time. You're in full control. I think that's why this one hurts more because really it's on the Bills. This time,
100%.
You know, you got all after
at home
after that win streak, the way things have gone this season. You know, the inspiration from the punt return and other people making plays. They win the division, but just have everything there for them, right? 2 home games in the playoffs. You know, you finally get Kansas City at home, and then the ball's in your hand with less than 2 minutes to go. You know, it's like you go back to the Tom Brady days. They finished the job, right? You're expecting that from the Bills, and it just fell apart for them on that drive. And I don't know. I'm not going to blame Josh. I don't know the calls.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch it. Sure, it looks like Diggs is wide open on the snapshot.
I said it right from the snap.
On the photos, but you know, I think they had a play similar to that earlier in the game where it was almost picked off, right? So I mean, if you're looking at it like the play concept, like okay, Shakir looks like he's going to be open. I mean,
sure,
if Josh can get hit, it's a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to go back and question why are we throwing 40-yard bombs on second down with 1:50 left?
That was my
I don't know where that
problem
comes
with
from.
It. Yeah, that was my problem with it. Is you take the dump off to Diggs, he at least gets 5-6 yards, if not way more, because it was open in front of him. But I understand that the play call and the design, and yes, he had time. If he wasn't hit, it's probably a touchdown. But you know, at that point in the game, you have to be thinking, just keep control. Don't have to go for the jugular. Just keep control. Take the yardage. Get a little bit at a time. Run the clock, like you were saying. You know, control. and they went for the jugular, and unfortunately it didn't work on that play. Had it worked, I still would have been questioning, like, hey, we should have used a lot more time before trying to score that touchdown. You wouldn't have been called it a touchdown, that's for sure, but you still would have been nervous because you're giving them the ball back now with a chance with less than 2 minutes left. So
Right, it's Pat Mahomes, and you know how this ends up, right? Like, Pat Mahomes drives down and wins the game if
exactly. That's
you
why you
know,
want to give it.
they've seen it.
So I was, yeah, I mean, if only you could take it back. And then at least you're thinking, okay, Tyler Bass can hit a 58-yard field goal in his sleep, right? Like he just does. And this one was from 44. And, he's had his issues in this postseason. He's had his issues kind of down the stretch. But
Right, yeah.
Tyler Bass, he can kick it from anywhere and make it down the middle.
Yeah, especially at home. He's been really good
Winds
at home.
whipping, and all that the whole day. You could see the flags moving, and he
But
just
again,
doesn't
okay,
get off his foot. It's just
I understand you're confident in Tyler Bass, but still should not be playing this
No.
game to tie.
Nobody wanted to tie, exactly.
But, like,
when you don't
yeah.
get any yardage and it's 4th and 7, I mean, you can't
Right,
go
you have
for it
to.
on that.
I understand.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have gone for it either, I don't think. It'd be different if it's 4th and 4.
correct, or like shorter. Yeah, definitely.
Right, so when it's 2nd and 9, why are we taking the low percentage play here? That's I just don't understand that. And then the 3rd and 9, I mean, I'm not sure. The play fell apart. Josh rolls out, launches it to the end zone again, but it's like we don't need that play right now. You need the first down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just felt like I don't know if it was play calling. I just don't know what the conversations were going on with Josh. What Sean McDermott's saying, what the play call is, what the intentions are.
Yeah.
Right. If they're asking, if the play call is let's throw it to Shakir in the end zone, I mean, he made the right reads, but I'm not calling that in that scenario. I mean, I played Madden so many times. What do you do in Madden in that scenario? You go for
Dump
the
it
first
off.
down, you
Yeah,
run the
yeah.
clock down to, let's say, 30, 40 seconds.
And then
Maybe
you
Kansas
take a
City
shot.
takes some
Yeah.
times out. That's fine. Waste their timeouts. That's fine. And then you're going to take, shots at the end zone, 4 shots, and then the game's going to end that way. And you still have a field goal in your back pocket. So let's say you shoot for the end zone 3 times, and then the last time you would tie it. But I mean, at least you have those 3 shots, and Pat Mahomes has no time to come back. So that's game.
Yeah.
The odds of something like 13 seconds happening again are.
And you're at home. So
less
even if
than
it
one,
goes
right?
to
It's
overtime,
less than
even if you miss
5%,
all
so.
3 shots, it's a shorter field goal. If he makes it, you're going overtime and you still feel good because 1, overtime rules have changed, and 2, you're the home team. So it's that important. You're like, okay,
Right.
let's do this again and let's find out who's better now.
Right.
But I don't know, maybe that changed the play calling too, that thought process of, well, Bass is going to be good from here, but still you have to think, even if we get a little bit of yards, rush for 2 yards, for 3 yards, whatever, and then kick the field goal, at least it's a little bit closer, and you didn't just, I don't know. There's so many things that could have gone differently and didn't. That's
right.
the hard reality.
That's the problem with this game is it's really on the Bills. They had it.
Yeah.
It's there for them. Right.
Mm-hmm. Even in that moment, we didn't even talk about everything else that happened in the damn game, right? I mean,
yeah.
Holy cow! The
wasn't a great day overall.
Fumble
really.
in the end zone by Kansas City, and you have to capitalize on that moment, and you don't. And then, it was just the weird botched go for it on 4th down, fake punt to DeMar Hamlin.
I don't hate the call. I know everyone's beating up Sean
I
McDermott
understand,
for that
but
call.
It was just ugly. Like, why? Where's the
Right.
execution on that call?
Yeah.
You got had. It looked like
kind of embarrassing.
What was it? 10 men on the field, and they couldn't. You couldn't get it done. Like that's
I understand the
embarrassing.
intention. If DeMar Hamlin gets that first down, the crowd goes wild. Teams engaged, right? Like, I understand the intent there, but
yes,
you kind of forgot that he's a safety. He's never. He doesn't handle the ball. You know what I mean? Like, would have been better to put Ty Johnson or somebody there.
That play it's not the going for it. I like the going for it, the aggressive nature. It was just the play call again, the way you did it, the execution, not good. I mean, that's mostly on the players on the field. Sean McDermott can only do so much there, but it just in general, and the refs, oh my God, that 3rd down call where they threw the flag an hour late. They were like, what can we make up to throw on this play? Well, the receiver got hit, even though the replay clearly shows the ball's in Patrick Mahomes' hand when the play happens, and they still throw the flag. Where's New York on that one, you assholes? Your job is to review it and tell them when they're wrong. They were clearly wrong. The review of the play, the replay very clearly showed Pat Mahomes with the ball in his hand when the receiver gets hit. And yet after the play, everybody's, okay, we got our third down stop. And then a flag comes in and nobody does anything about it. And they discuss it and it magically goes the Chiefs' way. I mean, that was just one of many that was frustrating. Missed face mask calls, missed holding calls everywhere on the field. I get it. They were keeping the flags in their pocket. Okay, you can make the argument both ways there, but then you can't call the stupid plays like the one I just talked about for one side. Like that was just unbelievable, that call.
So every
And
game
it was a third down, but exactly. You can't blame the refs, but that didn't help at all. When you're clearly trying to get things done and they aren't making the calls on the play on the field and they make one up against you, that counts against you too. It just puts your backs.
Well, luckily it didn't matter.
The
they stopped them on the next series, which was huge, but would have been heated if the Chiefs scored on that.
Yeah, right? It's a good thing because that fired the defense.
Before that, they haven't stopped them all day. So it's like, you finally get to stop and they get a bad call, right? So that was definitely infuriating.
And then the bigger part, obviously, the reason I think ultimately what it came down to is injuries, right? We knew that coming into this game. I hate the NFL playoffs in a lot of ways because most of it comes down to luck, right? Are you lucky enough to be healthy at the right time? And you could argue, well, if you have a good medical staff and you did plan the right way during the season and, you rested guys when you needed to and you gave them the right snap counts and whatever else. But ultimately, it's just luck, right? Terrell Bernard, game time decision, said maybe he could have gone, but it was really hurting him. Man, if he plays without the leg, amputate his one leg, we win this game. You know what I mean? That's what makes it so much more frustrating. He doesn't need that foot to play. Literally cut it off and we win the damn game. But that's what I mean. You can't do that, obviously. So he sits on the bench and they're like, okay, we don't want you to injure this more because if we do move forward, we're going to need you. And AJ Klein played pretty well last week. But then more guys go down. And then the cornerback, I mean, it was just like draining to watch this team with the injuries.
Well, it seemed like to me.
And they just ate us up there. Yeah.
These teams have played each other a ton. And we said this last week before the game. You got to do some things different, right? Because you played each other so much. You're so familiar. You kind of expect, what looks you're going to get and things. And I feel like Andy Reid just did a better job of, being creative with the play calling, the 3 tight end sets and just putting a lot of pressure on the linebackers who are, Dotson's kind of slow for a linebacker. He's been good all year, but he's not real fast. And then AJ Klein was just gassed just because he hasn't been on the team, right? So, he hasn't been with the team all year. So really put those guys in tough
Dotson
positions.
missed the whole quarter.
They had success with the run game, which again opens up the pass. But then also to add on top of that, we missed Travis Kelce, who's so wide open.
Oh my friggin' God!
On the touchdown throw.
That was the only one that I was really screaming at the TV.
Right. Just
like you have one guy.
Really play calling or anything, but
you have one guy to worry about on that team.
Yeah.
One guy. 4 people should be staring at that guy. How the hell did he get that wide open? That means not 1, not 2, not 3. 4 people screwed up and let him be that wide open on that touchdown. That was the most frustrating defensive play of the game because everybody screwed up. Like, what the hell was that? Nobody knew the play call. Nobody knew I'm also supposed to figure out where Travis Kelce is. Like, what in the hell? Like, that was. He made the other touchdown play. Like, okay, whatever. That one was, at the 2-yard line.
He's gonna have his.
But that was just stupid.
Right.
That
the other thing too was when they blitz off the edge. When I think it was Taron Johnson blitzing off the edge to Mahomes, you can tell they're ready for that, right? Defensive line makes a line. Mahomes steps up left. There's Valdez-Scantling going across the field. Again, I think it was Klein or somebody on him who's just so far behind. He's wide open. It was a big play. They were ready. They got similar looks to what they got in previous games. And, credit to the Chiefs. This is what they do, right?
No pressure on Mahomes, right? That was another huge factor in this game.
Their offensive line stepped up, no doubt about it. Ed Oliver, quiet day, no sacks on the day.
Left without speaking to the media after the game. Yeah, I mean, he was pissed. Rightfully so, but he got eaten up out there. Yeah. And they have a very good interior. Don't get me wrong. We know Kansas City Chiefs have probably the best interior offensive line in football, but those tackle positions are weak. And we should have been getting pressure on the outside, and they couldn't. They absolutely could not.
Yeah, and it's disappointing. You got a big contract player in Von Miller, and I know he's not healthy. Greg Rousseau's a first-round pick. Like, this is the moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why you're drafted high. Just didn't see it from them. The other thing, they forced Josh to check it down the entire game, which he did a good job of that, right?
Yes, he did take what was given to him, and I was happy with that.
And everyone wants to say, "Oh, yards per play," it doesn't matter, right? He made the right decision, took what the defense gave him. This is why he had a great day in the first half. You're in the game, right? It's it's back and forth, but the Bills are keeping pace, But then the second half, you saw him go from 2 deep safeties to 1 safety deep, right? Cover 1, and then they're challenging you to throw it deep. And Josh threw beautiful passes, especially to Diggs. That one was, I thought, on the money. But they're basically challenging you. They're challenging you to throw it to Sherfield.
And he did. And he dropped him too.
Well, who else are you going to throw it to? It's like,
yeah.
So credit to the Chiefs. I just think they had a better game plan, and it showed. Right?
What they did worked. I mean, the score was obviously close, but the Chiefs got the better of it because they were like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And it worked and it held up. Ultimately, they got the W because they did that, right? They were able to adjust. Like you said, who cares? We'll put 1 safety and see if they can hit a deep ball. Well, guess what? Josh Allen was accurate, but his receivers suck. So let's keep letting them throw the deep ball because they're not going to get it. And we didn't on any of them.
You hit on one of those, it's a different game, I think.
Right. That Diggs one was heartbreaking because
it was.
That when Diggs is in his feeling good, that's an easy play. That's an easy catch for a touchdown, And I don't know. I just saw it, the way the ball went through his hand. Like, what? Stephon Diggs can't catch that?
Yeah.
Like, who are you? And then, he had the fumble with his first touch in the game, the first play of the game for the Bills. That was another one where it's like, oh, shoot, is this going to be the type of day he has? And I will say about Diggs is we're not going to hear from him until training camp, right? Like he's not going to be pouting or, saying what the heck does this team have to do or meeting with the GM. No, dude, you had it in your hands quite literally and didn't get it done. You can't blame anybody but yourself now. So I hope he does a lot of introspection this offseason, and there's not a lot of rumors about what he's doing or where he's going because, he blew it in this game too. It's on him too. What do you have, like 6 targets and only 3 catches for less than 30 yards? Yeah. Sad.
Yeah, and that big play was the corner. I mean,
right, Snead's a good corner, but that big play was the one that really.
Yeah, it was.
That's the difference.
Well,
literally.
You need it. You have to have it. It's disappointing, and really, it felt like the Bills. Outside of James Cook and Kincaid, who do you turn to?
Yeah, Shakir. Okay, that catch. It was a big 3rd down catch, and it was a lateral basically, but I mean it was forward pass, but for about a yard maybe. And Allen throws it to him on the left side. And Shakir, Allen's pass went behind him. So it was a bad pass by Allen. Shakir, I swear to God, his arms went through his body behind him to catch the ball. How he made the turn to catch the ball and then move forward, I have no idea. That was one of the best catches I've ever seen. And it was only, to get a first down. But Shakir also, whenever he touches the ball, the guy is magic. The guy is magic. And that catch was, to me, the catch of the day. How he was able to turn that quick when the pass was so far behind him. I mean, he literally catches everything. We talked about that, right? He was something like 42 of 49 on targets in the regular season, which is insane. And he did the same thing in this game. So I'd give Shakir his props in this one too.
Yeah. No, he's a good player. Had a great game. And I mean, I don't know. This one just sucks because it's, you needed one big play and the outcome's different, and they just couldn't find it in this game, right? I mean, the biggest play of the game was obviously Valdez-Scantling fumbling through the touchback. Swung the entire game. The game would have been over if he scores there, right?
Yeah, and that was after our fourth down botch, right? The botched run.
But you're just waiting for that big play in the second half, and it just didn't really come. Like they're moving the ball pretty good. They did have a couple drives that fell short, but we just need more firepower. It seems like, there's just no real good deep threat on this team with Gabe Davis out and now free agent. That's a big hole, right? I feel like if Gabe Davis is there, I think the result on those deep passes is different. Maybe he catches one, right? We've seen it before.
Well, 1 out of 4, maybe. Yeah,
I mean, let's not pretend that he's some awful receiver, right?
He's
He's
not, but
inconsistent, but like he makes big plays, and in the playoffs,
50-50.
especially historically, it's what we've seen. They're missing
Correct.
Gabe Davis in this
I would have
game.
much rather had him out there than some of the other guys. If he's throwing to Sherfield down the field, yeah, I'd rather have Gabe Davis, obviously. But again, he's a 50-50 guy. You don't know what
I'll
would have
take
happened, but
50-50.
it certainly would have been. He's certainly an upgrade over Sherfield out there, right? Or even Hardy or whoever.
Sure, and
you're
that's
putting
kind
on
of
the
what
field.
I've seen. It felt like, but again, yeah,
Injuries.
it'll
You
be a long
can't.
offseason.
Injuries on offense. The
We can
injuries
dig
on
for
defense.
excuses all day. End of the day, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. They played phenomenal. Felt like they kind of were the underdogs in this game, which they love. It's something new for them. They're on the road. There's all this media hype that it's different. It's different this time. And really, I thought the Bills were, I don't think a lot of teams can compete with Kansas City like that when they're scoring on every single drive.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bills went toe-to-toe with them and came up a little short. But there's a lot to be intrigued about with this team, right?
Certainly.
It's over now. But headed into the offseason, they didn't get blown out. That's a whole different conversation if you lose 30-10,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that helps a little bit. But anyway, let's move on from that. Sean McDermott's future Super Bowl window, starting with Sean McDermott.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about when they were 6-6, should he be fired? I mean, we're looking around the league going, okay, well, all the successful coaches right now with good records are offensive head coaches. And it felt like at the time, the defensive head coaches weren't doing well. And, the league's changing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we should go get an offensive head coach. But after seeing them win, 7 games in a row,
right,
the wild card game, winning the AFC East, and then going toe-to-toe with Kansas City, yeah, I'm intrigued. I think Sean McDermott's not the problem here, right? And for me, it's just you got to keep knocking on the window, keep knocking on the door, and one day it'll break down, right?
Yeah, Sean McDermott, under the tutelage of one Andy Reid, who now owns him, right? Like literally his daddy too. Sean McDermott making calls to Andy Reid's family these days. Now, every day he's going to call them and say, please tell him you want more time with him. Tell him the time is now, right? Kids, right? Wife, right? Whoever else in the family, like, please tell him to retire, right? Get him out of there. And Sean McDermott has the monkey off his back already, I think, because we've seen it time after time. And Andy Reid is one of the greatest coaches of all time now, right? And there's no shame in being second on the field when Andy Reid is the other coach, right? So
right.
That's just going to happen.
Great championship appearances for Kansas City. That's
unbelievable.
That's the real deal. And it's like, look, I understand the Bills get beat by Kansas City every year in the playoffs, but so does every other team.
Yep.
And when's the last time Baltimore was in the
and coaching has so much to do with that, right? I mean, Andy Reid is the best coach in the NFL right now. So
yeah,
I think if he retires, that's going to help the Bills a lot. But speaking of Sean McDermott, I know the title here is Sean McDermott's future, but there's no chance after what he did with this team this year. He already proved his moxie. He already proved he did not lose the locker room, which is what we were worried about. What the biggest worry, I guess.
Right.
And no matter how many people say he should be fired, he can't get over the hump. He can't get it done when it matters most. The organization isn't going to do that. The guy changed the culture. He's proven he can win. He's been consistent. 4 AFC East championships, 5 playoff wins. I mean, you just can't. It's hard to upgrade from that, right? And what he did with little, right? My favorite thing about Sean McDermott, I'll say, is the fact that he can get the most talent out of these guys who are, 4 stringers or 6th-round draft picks or undrafted, right? He has proven it time and time again. If you're under a Sean McDermott leadership and you're a defensive back, he's going to turn you into an ace, right? Like he gets the most out of his guys. And he did that down the stretch again this year as the injuries piled up for the Bills. So,
right.
Having a coach like that is important as well. I think he's going to stay. Now, what happens every year, it's going to be a conversation now. Next year, he does the same thing. The team is healthy, he makes it and he loses to some other team, then it's time to say, okay, this might be a coaching Sean McDermott thing. And every coach has their way and every coach can have criticism. You can talk about the Tyler Dunn article all you want, but the fact of the matter is nobody's perfect, and Sean McDermott has well enough proven himself to be, that he is a very, very good coach in the NFL, and he gets the most out of his guys, and he's the right guy in the right situation with this team. So I don't think Terry Pegula or anybody else is saying that it's time to move on. Not yet. And it's going to be hard to in the future, barring some kind of epic collapse, right? So I think for now and for the foreseeable future, at least, Sean McDermott is safe.
Yeah, and I don't think you build a dynasty overnight. I mean, the Patriots are the exception there, right? It was like dynasty from day one, which is, odd. Maybe a little foul play if you want to get into details. But the Chiefs, right? 2015, lost division round. They lost in the division round in 2016, lost the wild card in 2017, lost the conference championship in 2018 to finally win a Super Bowl in 2019, right?
Yeah.
You just keep knocking on the door. I mean, Mahomes was a big part of that, right? But he didn't win it his first year.
Mm-hmm.
You
really had to build and
you have to build. You have to keep at it, right? And I think the Bills are too close to tear it down and start over.
Right. I think the problem comes with the second half of this title, the Super Bowl window that everybody likes to talk about, which I think we would both agree, as long as you have Joshua Patrick Allen as your quarterback, there is a Super Bowl window. I don't care what team you are. You could be on the scrubbiest team in the NFL, and they got a chance when they got him at quarterback. So that's a different story, but I think the bigger question then becomes, okay, looking at this roster, how do you continue to improve, right? At least under Andy Reid, you knew the example you gave, he had to build, right? You had to start putting in pieces. You say, okay, this is our weakness. We're going to strengthen that. This is our other weakness. We're going to strengthen that. Now we got the quarterback, and boom, it all clicked into place, right? We already have the quarterback. We have this strong Sean McDermott defense. We got plenty of holes on offense that we could talk about, but they did draft Kincaid this year, which is a promising piece already, and he's going to get a whole off season. I mean, I'm super excited to see him in year 2 now, but the pieces we need, it's going to say, okay, now you're taking away both of your star safeties who have been a corner piece in that defense. You're, taking away defensive linemen, pass rushers that we're not going to have on this team anymore. How do you continue to be the team the way you've built it and continue to take that next step? That criticism in this offseason is going to be legit. So if the media starts talking about that, you're not going to hear me say otherwise. Hyde and Poyer have been an absolute important keystone to this Sean McDermott team. Since he came in and picked those two guys, or whatever, Bean or whoever you want to say, signed, I think it was technically the previous regime that signed him, but those two together have been a huge, huge cornerstone of the Sean McDermott defense, and now they both might be gone. Now, in my opinion, they're not. You replace them with veterans. You replace them with, safeties don't sign big contracts. So that's a good thing for the Bills this offseason, as we're very far under the cap, and we got plenty of weeks to talk about that. But the criticism, I think, of that part of it, how do you continue to, quote, and I hate this, stay in the Super Bowl window, because, again, that centers around Josh Allen and nothing else. But how do you continue to build this roster in the right direction when you're going to be losing a lot of key pieces on defense? That criticism is real. That concern is real, especially, Bills fans. We should be concerned about that. That's what Bean and McDermott have to do, right? They've continued to do that. Every year they've said this team can't get better. This was their chance, and yet they got better, right? So,
well, look around the league too, right? Yeah. Baltimore Ravens and the Chiefs right now, both playing their highly paid quarterbacks. Yep. They've built teams around them within the cap, right? And so that the whole Super Bowl window thing is a myth.
Yeah.
Because quarterbacks at a certain level, and you just go beyond that, right? And you play with lesser talent, right? I mean, the Bill strategy is basically find scrubs, sign them for 1 year, and hope they contribute, right?
Right. I mean, Leonard Floyd this year, right? Like, nobody wanted him. Yeah. We signed him, and he's been a beast. And how are we going to retain him with no cap space, right? He's going to get a deal now,
Yeah,
so.
He'll get a deal, but that's the selling point. Hey, come play with a
contender,
get 1 year, get back on free agency, you have value again, and that's worked really well.
You need to find the next Leonard Floyd.
System.
And continue to draft.
Take a
and
look
continue to develop.
We also have to take a look at. We know the Chiefs story. Like, we beat that to death. Everyone knows them. But the Baltimore Ravens have done a hell of a job building the team as well. And it's not like they've been in the Super Bowl anytime recently, right? The last Super Bowl that they won, 2012, was the last time they appeared. They've lost plenty of playoff games since then. You know what I mean? But the reason they're having success this year is looks like they kind of completed a 3-year plan, right? Let's draft receiver talent in round 1 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Re-sign Mark Andrews. Let's get Lamar Jackson healthy. And that's working out really well for them.
Yes.
Right. I think the Bills need to go in that direction of let's make this offense, a lot better. Right? Let's make it high flying, And I think you do that through the draft when you have a quarterback taking a huge chunk of the cap.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about what a Zay Flowers, for example, would do for this team if we had drafted him and put him on this roster, along with the other pieces. And I know that wouldn't have happened anyway, but it's the idea, right? What you need is more offensive weapons that scare people, right? Last year, we added Sherfield, we added Hardy, and neither one of them did a damn thing most of the season until the end, right? The postseason, then we got a touchdown from each of them. That was crazy. But, thank you for your contributions. You're no longer a part of the Buffalo Bills. That didn't work out, right? That did not work out. So what does that mean moving forward? Well, you have a huge hole at that position. That's what we felt the most throughout the season at key moments. Throughout the, postseason, it was, okay, well, Diggs is struggling for XYZ reason, whatever it is. Who's the next man up? Well, it's the 2 tight ends. Well, it's Shakir. Okay, but we need a valid and top-notch number 2 guy to be right next to him, right? And to be that guy. And they've drafted defense. Finally, they went out and got Kincaid last year, and that looks like it was a very good move for them. And now I think it's without a doubt, and I will fight people on this all offseason. I don't care what other need there is. I don't care what the draft board says. I don't care if the best player in the draft that's not named a wide receiver drops. You are not picking anything but a wide receiver in round 1. Okay. It's
a good draft class too for receiver.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. That's why you have to take one. Pick your guy. I don't care if everybody's projecting him to go in the 3rd. If that's your guy, pick him in the 1st round and don't hesitate. If there's a guy who's ahead, you're going to trade assets, you're going to trade up, and you're going to get him, because that's the only way to get this done. You can't sit around like you did last year with a good wide receiver draft class and let each one get picked off until, something falls to you.
Right.
Now, you ended up with Kincaid, which is good, but this year you cannot do that. You need to pull the trigger and get that guy that you like, whoever it is. I don't even care which one it ends up being. It might be somebody that's 5th on my list, but if he's 1st on theirs, they should go up and get him,
Yeah.
Well, I should say 2nd, because everybody knows Marvin Harrison Jr. is 1st on the board, but he's going to be long gone. However, and I don't think the Bills, I don't think
3 you're not going to have a shot.
Yeah, no, I don't think the Bills need to go to the top 10 even, right? You don't need to get in the top 10. But after that 11 to 15 or 11 to 20 range, I think that's when you trade up and you get your guy. Like, you make it happen, especially if wide receivers start getting, like, you better be like, here's our 1, 2, 3, and we're not going beyond here. We're getting one of those 3 guys.
Well,
and
again, you need to upgrade receiver for a lot of reasons, right?
Oh,
Gabe Davis is a free agent. Brandon Beane said in the press conference he's going to test free agency.
Yeah,
right? That's going to happen. He's not coming back.
Somebody
will offer, right? They like his work ethic. They've seen flashes from him. Somebody will fall in love.
He's a great blocker,
right? And given the free agent market, he's going to be one of the top guys. So there's that. So right out the gate, you have a need at X receiver. The other thing too is you got to get Stephon Diggs back in receiver 1 mode, and that means more catches, more stats,
targets,
more targets for Stephon Diggs. And the way to do that is to put a threat on the other side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you focus your attention on Diggs, then we're going to have one-on-one coverage over here, and this guy can win one-on-one consistently. Keyword, consistently.
Yes.
That's like you said, I don't care who it is. I mean, they'll do their research, they'll find the guy, but that's the need. You need somebody who can win one-on-one coverage consistently.
And that's why I'm saying
that'll take a lot of pressure off Diggs, and it's going to help the team overall, right? Because now it really puts a lot of pressure on the defenses, and that's kind of what's missing right now, especially with the injuries they had in this past game.
So my biggest fear, and I mentioned this a little bit just before we started, but my biggest fear is knowing McDermott and Beane and what they like. Look, pass rusher is a huge need on this team too, right? Floyd, we just talked about. Epinesa, there's need there. Von Miller not being what not knowing what he's going to be. It's a huge need for this team. There's no doubt we're drafting an edge rusher at some point, right? We need one badly. They're going to look in free agency as well. But point being, my fear is they're going to have this draft board and some edge rusher that they had at 10 is going to fall. And they're going to be like, oh, well, this edge rusher's here and we really need edge rusher. And there's guys who are wide receivers in the 3rd round that we like. No, I don't care if the guy ends up being the best pass rusher of all time, literally breaks Bruce Smith's records. You cannot draft that guy because the best pass rusher of all time is not moving the needle for this team on offense. And this team is built around Josh Allen, and you need to focus on the offense. Rebuild how you need to, pick pass rushers, sign guys cheap, whatever you need to do on defense, get it done some other way. You are drafting a wide receiver in round 1 or bust, or you're dumb, right? I don't care. I'm telling you, Brandon Beane is not dumb. He knows he's going to draft a wide receiver, just like all those people who for years told me the Bills are going to pick a running back in round 1. And all those smart people who said, here's why the Bills should pick XYZ running back in round 1. And what did I say? No, that would be stupid. And he's not stupid. He knows to pick running back in the later rounds, not in the beginning rounds. Round 2 is key for running backs. And sure enough, what we get? James Cook in round 2, and that paid off because he's smart. Now, this is even more of an argument in my case. I will all offseason, I will go toe-to-toe with whoever wants to, that it is wide receiver or bust. I don't care if it's the best, whatever, insert position, safety, any other position.
And a lot of that's because you have the offensive line locked up, right? We have tight end locked up, and now running backs locked up with James Cook, right? So it's almost like on offense, the only need is wide receiver at this point. And you got to help the offense, right? This should be an offensive team at this point going forward. That should be the strategy. Because, again, McDermott can coach defense up, right?
Yes.
He's going to start 6th, 7th rounders anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So
right? They're going to win
they
the
drafted
job.
a corner 1st round. He hasn't played all year.
Yeah.
But we got Dane Jackson out there. You got, Benford out there. These are all late-round guys.
Yeah,
Matt Milano,
6th round.
late-round guy. He loves the underdog, and he's shown he can coach them up. So let's keep doing that.
And I trust them to evaluate that position. Even if they draft, they have to draft a wide receiver. They draft their guy and he ends up not being the guy, say like, oh, he's underperforming in the NFL and 2 years in, they're like, well, that was dumb. I don't care. It's the right decision to draft a wide receiver. You have to take a shot. It's just like quarterback now at this point. You draft the quarterback you think is a guy, and when he's not, it could cost you your job if it's the quarterback, but you start over and you find the next guy. Look at the Patriots and all those teams that have tried one guy and now are scrapping it for the next guy, or even the San Francisco 49ers who went through 3 different guys before they got to Brock Purdy, and now he's the guy getting it done, right? So, I mean, they absolutely have to, no question about it. You're taking wide receiver in the 1st round, take a stab, get your guy, trade up, do what you got to do, and then figure the rest out, because there will be safeties, there will be pass rushers that you can take in round 2 and 3. And I'm not even opposed. What I would really ideally see is you pick wide receiver in 1, you pick wide receiver in round 3 or 4. So you go wide receiver, pass rusher, wide receiver, safety, boom, draft, done. That's it. Trade everything else to get those guys. And I think you have the right pieces in place, because like we said, if Gabe Davis is gone, presumably, and you're signing Sherfield and or you're cutting Sherfield and Hardy, presumably, because they were not successful on this roster, then you have a huge hole to fill at wide receiver. And drafting 2 guys isn't out of the question. We do have one on the practice squad who hasn't been able to show yet, Justin Shorter, but that doesn't mean, he's going to be promised a roster spot or anything either. We don't know what he is either yet. But yeah, wide receiver is the absolute biggest need by far on this team. And yeah, it's going to be brutal to have discussions about, well, this guy could fall to him. No, wide receiver. I don't care.
Yeah. And it's, if you're drafting early, the benefit is you can get a receiver that can do a lot of different things. You know what I mean? I feel like Gabe Davis, as good a player as he was, he's pretty limited, right? He's kind of straight line routes, you can find the gaps in the zone, but winning one-on-one consistently is just not his thing. Bending and running routes, it's just a really rare skill set to find somebody who's fast and can bend and can find those holes in the zone, right? And all those guys go top 15 these days, right? Last year, we saw a ton of receivers go early as well,
Yeah.
top 25. So
Mhm.
they're guys who can do that they're rare and they're in demand, right? Receivers got to be one of the highest positions in demand at this point. So, like you said, got to be aggressive in round 1 if we are trying to upgrade from Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
Got to be aggressive.
And people
Then
will
I
say
think
also, well, what about free agency, right? Like, oh, the Bills can go out and sign T. Higgins, right? Like, okay, in what
No.
atmosphere or world are you paying T. Higgins $20+ million a year? Like, no.
Can't
Come
do
back
that.
down to reality. We're already 49 million over. We've got a lot of positions to fill. The free agent market is cream of the crop at the top. There's some good names up at the top, but they're going to get way too big of a contracts for the Bills to even entertain that. I mean, if you want to go find a guy that they can trade for who's under contract for 1 or 2 more years and you really like, fine, but that's rare too because wide receiver is such a premium position. You can't really rely on that. I think, the one guy that, when we talked earlier, we were texting in our group chat and I said, Kelvin Ridley's a guy I would love to have, but somebody's going to throw lots of money at him too and be out of our
Maybe
price
Jacksonville,
range. Right? It might be them because he did pay off well for them.
Yeah.
But I just think and they have a lot more money than the Bills do in cap space. So it's not, although free agency is probably going to be dipped into. I'm sure they'll find a veteran somewhere that they're going to sign at wide receiver because it's going to be a thinner position.
It'll be
this
like,
year.
the later stages of free agency on guys who didn't
kind of like they did
paid,
before. Even with guys like John Brown, that wasn't a huge
That's their strategy, and it's really to fill a roster, it's been working out.
And they like to balance. I also think that makes sense to balance. Oh, okay, here's a veteran wide receiver who can teach these young kids who are really going to be more impactful on the roster, and have a little bit of depth for guys who know how to get it done.
It works.
Right?
And
but it's going to be,
you
it's
have
not
James Cook, you have Kincaid and Knox. I mean, get some gadget guys. Like that's what I was going to finish my thought on was later on.
Yes.
You get your guy who's we think's an upgrade from Gabe Davis, maybe not year 1, but like in the future. And then go get gadget guys with just track stars, right? Not real strong, but can run fast, right?
Yep.
And win deep.
Yeah, Arian Foster. Anybody remember that?
Because you have your offensive positions filled, though, you can take those luxury picks, and just get gadget guys at that point.
Agreed.
You don't need to find a starting X receiver in round 4 because you already filled that.
And like you said, I think it matters that, the Bills have a track record now, right? People want to come play for this team and fight with this team. So there will be free agents who want to sign with the Bills, but nobody's taking a ridiculously low contract, right? That's not happening. So it's reasonable, within reason. It's not reasonable to think that one of those top wide receivers is going to sign with Buffalo at this point. Got to get it done.
Yeah.
Got to. And how many years have we been saying put more talent around Josh Allen? It shouldn't be rocket science. I know you're a defensive-led coach, defensive-led team. It's not rocket science. Right. Get it done around Josh Allen. Keep putting high-value
touchdown record. I know it sounds crazy, but
and look what's happened with guys. it used to be drop passes was a thing, can't catch. Now you have Kincaid. Now you have Shakir. Those guys are so sure-handed. It's great. Diggs has some drops, but he's still very good wide receiver when it comes to that. And you get a young guy in there and some veteran presence. Now you keep continuing to build around Josh Allen and get him what he needs.
Right. And they put a lot of pressure on the defensive game plan, but if you add an X receiver who can win consistently, you're putting a lot of pressure on the defense and the game plan. And that's going to open up a lot of other guys. Right. So it's really, you're one piece away. Right. And that's what's exciting.
Yes. And they're going to get it done. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, that's where they're
Bean
at.
isn't stupid.
We'll talk about that for the next 20 weeks.
We know what he's doing. He's going wide receiver.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of where. Is he trading up? How much is he giving up if he trades up?
Yeah.
Which guy is it that he likes?
We're going to beat this conversation up for weeks and
Absolutely.
weeks now. But anyway, there's other free agents, pending free agents for the Bills. We talked about Gabe Davis as a big one. Micah Hyde, will he retire? Yep. Will he come back, finish his career with Poyer? That's a big question around this team.
And injuries.
Daquan Jones, huge piece for them.
That is a big one. Yeah.
Tackle.
Again, another one. How much do you pay him? How much your team's going to throw at him? Because when he was on the field, he was super effective. Now that's a case where him next to Ed Oliver really, really worked. So, I'd say find a way to get that one done at a reasonable rate. and I think they'll let him test to see
Well, he
what
might be another guy that
what
goes
his
to
offers
test the
are.
market. And
Exactly.
if
Let
Bean
him.
mentioned that he's going to test the market, and he might get a good offer.
I think you
So-
let him, right? Because I think he'll realize that his value lies in being next to Ed Oliver. Unless somebody throws stupid money at him, which I don't think somebody will, given the injury concern and all of that, I think he could stay. But with Gabe Davis, again, that premium position, somebody's going to give him a stupid contract.
Right.
So that's unfortunate. And Hyde, there's been rumors of his retirement already circling on social media. Poyer, we know that there's been rumors of, are the Bills going to keep him around too? So it's a lot up in the air at the safety position.
So at safety.
And then, I mean, yeah, those are huge names. Obviously,
Yes.
Epinesa.
Also, let's
You've
list them
got
out here.
Floyd. Yeah.
Got Micah Hyde, Dane Jackson, Tyler Rapp, Cam Lewis, all unrestricted free agents. Leonard Floyd, Matakevich, Dotson. Dotson's an interesting one. Great depth player. Stepped up when
you
we needed
really
him.
want to keep him around as depth.
Daquan Jones, Tim Settle, Jordan Phillips, Poona Ford, Linval Joseph, AJ Epinesa, Shaq Lawson.
Yep.
So that's huge. Right.
Lots of defensive line.
I mean, Daquan Jones, the big name here, but also AJ Epinesa had a phenomenal season. I think he gets paid elsewhere as well. But I mean, these are great depth players. That's not going to be easy to fill that.
You're right. And to replace them with guys that we talked about, like somebody who didn't get a contract they wanted and then comes to Buffalo for that 1 year type of prove it deal to fill a hole. And yeah, it's Bean has to work his magic this offseason to get that done, because the focus has to be on offense and need. I mean, obviously you can't not get a pass rusher. You can't not, because there's just no bodies out there. They're going to draft a pass rusher, right? It has to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to sign a pass rusher. It has to happen. But it's not going to be the top guys on the market. It's not going to be, maybe it's re-signing Epinesa if he really wants to stay. But like you said, that's another position, edge rusher, where teams will throw money at guys, and you cannot bank on having him back. You have to assume he's signing with somebody else, the same as, Gabe Davis. So Bean is going to have to work his magic to find the right guys to fill those positions, especially
just to
on
find
the
depth on the defensive line. That's going to
be D-line is so
challenge.
weak. Yeah, I think that was we chose not to draft an interior defensive lineman this draft, which a lot of us, this 2023 draft I meant, and that was one of those things where we were like, this is still a high position of need. Now coming into this year, you're looking at it saying, okay, free agency is going to be huge in determining where we absolutely have holes, straight up holes now, not just, we need more depth, but starters on some of those positions. So it'll have to get creative for sure.
Yeah, we do have Hardy next season under contract, so he'll be back.
No, he won't. They're going to cut him.
Well, I mean, right now he's scheduled to come back.
Yes.
A couple other people, Naeem Hines.
Hines coming back. Yeah.
That should be interesting to see how that pans out, what he looks like. Damian Harris, Latavius Murray are unrestricted free agents. And then KJ Hamler under the futures deal.
Interesting.
We'll see how that pans out.
Mm-hmm.
That is interesting because he's a great player coming into the league. Had a lot of injury issues. We know all the issues Denver's had, quarterback, and all that stuff. But he's a very interesting player. Like, I think high upside as long as the injury stuff's good, right? He's got high upside, and we'll have to review that more to see where he's at. But that's it's kind of a big name, maybe could get something
down the line. One of those guys who's just looking for an opportunity, and if he's given it, he could capitalize, right? So maybe.
And like I said, the offensive line's pretty short up, right? Everyone's scheduled to be back, except for David Edwards, depth player at guard. He's unrestricted free agent. So that's in better position than it has been in previous years.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Tyler Bass is locked up till 2027.
Yes.
Asking.
Big time contract. He's not going anywhere either, folks. So don't.
And Josh Allen's locked up too. I don't know if you have to. Kyle Allen, though, on the other hand, unrestricted.
Nobody there. Yep. Nobody at quarterback.
So
same story every year with backup quarterback, it seems, right?
A lot to get into there, and we're going to every single week we'll be talking about free agent targets. We're definitely going to cover the draft this year. Be sure to stick with us, tune in. We'll get all that in order as we move forward. But that's where we are right now, right? That's it's the off season, baby.
Yep.
Here we go. All right, AFC, NFC championships are set. Who do you like? We're going to talk about it more in depth on Thursday. But any surprises? The Lions championship.
The Lions,
championship
woo-hoo,
team,
baby. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. They've now tripled, or I guess they've gotten two more. Yeah, the math doesn't work there because they only had one playoff win. Now they've doubled. They've gotten two, so they've technically tripled the total. But
it's probably
two
who
more
I'm rooting
wins
for the most, right?
Really, yeah. I mean, your heart is
I think
with
most
them.
Bills fans will go Lions and Baltimore.
I watched the entire playoff game of the Lions, both the first game and the second game, and I love the Lions. I'm rooting for them. I love them. I want them to win it all more than anything. But I think they're going to get stomped by San Francisco. They just their defense has their holes galore. Their defense was like falling apart everywhere, and I like the Lions a lot. I'm rooting so hard for them, but I don't like that matchup for them.
Everyone loves San Francisco, but they're 2-2 in their last 4 games. They lost to the Rams. Got blown out by Baltimore in San Francisco, and then they should have lost to the Packers. Missed field goal saved them. They made the most out of that. But man, that was close, right?
Yeah.
Not so high in the 49ers. But we'll get into that on Thursday.
Go Lions. Yeah. But the AFC, I mean, AFC just makes me want to vomit. So
yes. Yeah, we'll just move on from that. Coaching GM hires. Is it Tom Telesco going to the Raiders, right? Former
division rival. Yeah.
Former Chargers GM gets hired by the Raiders. So Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco.
Yeah. We were talking briefly about this hire because I really like it because the guy put together an awesome roster. How many times do we have to say year after year the roster is phenomenal? Why can't they live up to it, right? And maybe part of the GM's job is to put together a roster that will meld together the right way. You could make that argument. And certainly the failures in San Diego or LA, the Chargers, resulted in needing to move on and fire both the GM and the coach. There's no doubt. I don't disagree with them firing him ultimately because of the epic collapse there and the need to start fresh. But I think this guy is going to have a good second chance here because he put together a great roster ultimately, and that team had pieces in place, and it was always just a matter of living up to that. So a good hire by them. We'll see how it works out with this roster that's also a bit in flux here. So
I think priority number 1's got to find a quarterback for the Raiders. Right? Yeah. Find a quarterback. Brian Callahan, former Bengals offensive coordinator, hired by the Tennessee Titans. That's interesting. They go to offensive head coach.
Right. And the Bengals losing.
My guess is they believe in Will Levis there, right?
Yeah, it seems like it.
So they got to get him up to speed, get him some weapons on offense, and then maybe he can become something. I mean, I watched him. I like the moxie. Little wild, right? But I think there's some potential there, right?
Right. You have to develop him. Let him develop. He can get better. And if he doesn't, then you decide to move on. So
I think bringing in that offensive head coach is a good move by them. We'll see. I think the Bengals are going to promote their quarterback coach, and we'll see how that works out. T. Higgins now leaving Cincinnati, so a couple changes there. We'll see how that.
Yeah. And I mean, the other one we talked about is Belichick not getting hired after we pretty much said it was going to happen, right? Like according to the media and everything that was coming out, not getting hired by the Falcons and them interviewing other candidates and starting to move on, it seems. So I said briefly that I think it could be what is the deal, right? They were both like, oh yeah, this is a good match. Let's get it done. And then all of a sudden Belichick said, well, I want $25 million a year. And they were like, no. And or I want a 10-year contract, and it's like, no, you're 80 years old. No, right? So I think something happened there where it didn't work out. It doesn't get to that point where people are reporting on, oh, it's a done deal, and then it falls apart. I think it's just a matter of either they're still going through the motions and they know they're going to hire Belichick eventually, or Belichick's waiting for other opportunities to emerge. Chiefs, right? Maybe. Or he's, he asked for way too much, and it's just like,
or he's done.
We're not giving you that.
League's changed. He hasn't shown anything.
I think he's. I mean, I've been saying all along, there's no reason to hire Belichick. No team should be looking at Bill Belichick and say that's the guy we want to lead our franchise right now, because he just hasn't got it done in today's NFL, especially the last few years. And
he doesn't seem like the nicest person to work with either, right?
Exactly. And he's going to demand the control. Everything we said previously still applies. He's going to demand control just by being present. Whoever's GM is going to listen to him. And that's not going to fly with a lot of teams. And it's not going to, he can't develop a quarterback. So that rules out a lot of teams. And,
man, he'd look good in black though. That whole evil genius thing with the Falcons colors, that would have been nice.
We'll see. He could still end up there, but we'll see.
Yeah. So Bobby Slowick, he's kind of been a big name. Houston Texans offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He interviewed with the Seahawks. Well, it's Ben Johnson interviewed with the Seahawks.
Yep.
Dan Quinn, I think, is probably the front runner there, if I had to guess.
Defense, yeah. Could be.
Yeah,
I don't know really where their head's at. Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Second interviews for the Seahawks: Raheem Morris, Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham was the Las Vegas Raiders defensive coordinator. Mike Kafka, Dan Quinn, and Avaro.
Yeah,
not sure who Avaro is.
And we didn't talk about Jim Harbaugh again. I think the Chargers had a second interview with him, right? So if he's going to leave Michigan, he might have an opportunity right in front of him to come and have Justin Herbert as his quarterback, which is going to be a good situation for a coach like that who's experienced and can get it done.
Ejiro Evero, Carolina Panthers defensive coordinator, scheduled for second interview for them.
Chargers?
Oh. No, for the Seahawks. Just wanted to
Seahawks.
That.
Yeah, Seahawks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jim Harbaugh the Chargers is a done deal. It's just they're kind of waiting to announce it. If I had to guess.
If he decides, I think he's still playing Michigan as well, because Michigan could throw a ton of money and everything.
Right. Maybe that's why they keep interviewing people, right? They interviewed like Vrabel, right?
They have to be ready. Yeah. He could make a decision either way, I think, and it wouldn't surprise me.
What else is out there? Who else is hiring?
Who haven't we? Yeah, right. Like those are the big
Commanders.
Commanders, yes, right. Yeah, I haven't heard anything recently. Is there any new news on the hiring front there?
I've heard nothing about them. Zero.
No. And it's a big deal for them, right? I think they probably end up going in a younger direction because they're building new, right? New head, new owner, new everything, right? So
what's intriguing about them is, you said new owner, but you also have the second pick in the draft. So like quarterback's done. You're getting one of the two guys. That's huge. If you're the Raiders, you're sitting there, you don't really know what you're going to do. Is it free agent? Are you going to be able to get somebody in the draft? I think they're around pick 10. Bobby Slowick interviewed with the Commanders. Feels like a nice fit. You're gonna have to develop a rookie quarterback. Well, you already had success with that with CJ Stroud, right? So,
again, that's who I think will end up taking that job too, is somebody who's a first-time head coach trying to, do things their way and has things to build around, but can get it done. That's the question. And you'll at least have a chance to start from scratch, and you're not going to get fired in your first year if you only win 2 or 3 games, right? And then start moving in the right direction from there. So that makes that position more valuable in my mind for a younger head coach.
Yep. And let's see, Adam Peters hired as GM. That's for the Commanders. Former assistant general manager. And I saw Dan Morgan got hired out of Carolina. Let's look at that up. Remember Dan Morgan? He was on the Bills staff for a while. Former player, former linebacker under McDermott.
Where did he go? I did not see that one either. But these guys, NFL, the nature of the NFL is...
Oh, he took over Carolina.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's a GM in Carolina now.
Yeah, which means, he has a good relationship with them. So
Right.
With the Bills, I mean. So, yeah. Not that Carolina needed more connections to Buffalo.
And Ben Johnson's still out there, but he's still playing. So there could be a lot of teams waiting for him to finish up. I think he's a hot.
Oh yeah, he'll be a candidate.
Lions offensive coordinator.
Yes,
he was phenomenal last.
He's going to be. He's going to be interviewed. I bet. Yeah. And even this past week we heard that people were. I mean, even Joe Brady got an interview, right? And a couple of these guys are. When your team is this far, there's a reason for it. So again, I think that's why we haven't seen teams act yet. Is they want a chance to hire these guys or to interview these guys when their focus is solely on the interview, and not on the team they're still with. Yeah.
And Jim Harbaugh, he did have 2 interviews with the Falcons as well. So I think you're spot on there. He's playing Michigan, trying to max out the money.
Yep.
which is really just agent work. He's probably just having fun talking football,
Yeah, why
going
not?
around
Yeah,
talking football.
exactly. And he's got good ideas. I bet he could be a great leader for the Falcons as well. So
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. But tune in with us on Thursday. We'll get you ready for the AFC, NFC championship games. We'll also continue to talk Bills. We got to fill our time now. Got to get creative, right?
We got some good stuff coming, though. We're
take a little deeper dive into the Bills offseason. And then next week, we'll get you ready for the Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Be talking
How exciting.
Pro Bowl, whatever that means. And then, maybe we used to do a quarterback power rankings. Maybe we'll do something like that.
I like it. We got a lot of
basically just a quarterback draft with me and you. Maybe bring on a guest,
There you go. We'll get it done. Right. But yeah, it's go Bills. We know the pain. We still love our Bills. It's going to happen. We're starting from scratch. It still hurts. It's going to hurt for a while, but we will bounce back and be just as energetic again. So as always, go Bills, and thanks for kicking it with us.
We'll see you next time.